Mayor Holtzclaw,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Biennial,
Here. Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Councilmember Bond,
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque.
Here.
Thank you, Naomi. I'm joining remotely today because one of my coworkers tested positive this afternoon. So out of an abundance of caution, I'm in my office. So we will begin as always with audience communication. Would anyone like to address the council? Please put up your virtual hand, or I'm not sure, is there anyone in the audience there?
No, there's no one here in council chambers yet, at least.
Okay. Anyone in the virtual world like to address the council before we get into the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to our presentations. The first item is a proclamation in honor of National Police Officers Week. It seems like the least we could do to recognize all our officers do to keep our community safe. So I'm going to read the following proclamation. Whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the city of Mill Creek, Washington. Whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. Whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Whereas 619 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 472 officers killed in 2021 and 147 officers killed in previous years. Whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 34th Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2022. Whereas the Candlelight Vigil is part of National Police Week, which will be observed this year, May 11th through 17th. Whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half staff. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Brian Holtzclaw, the mayor of the city of Mill Creek, on behalf of the city council, do hereby observe May 11 through 17, 2022 as National Police Week in the city of Mill Creek, and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in the communities across the nation. And thank you for all that they do to keep us safe. And we're going to go to the other side of public safety now and talk about fire. I'm pleased to welcome tonight Chief Hovis and Sheriff Urban from South County Fire. April 26th was a big night for all of us. A resounding victory that is great for our residents and great for our city because it allows us to look forward and not look backwards and figure out how we're going to deal with fire protection services. So Chief or Chair Urban, I wasn't sure exactly what you wanted to do tonight, so I'll turn it over to you.
Go ahead, Chief.
Thanks, Chair. Appreciate it. Mayor Holtzclaw, members of City Council, thank you for inviting us to be part of your meeting tonight. It's my honor to welcome you and all the residents of the city of Mill Creek to the South County Fire family. I want to thank also everyone at the city, many faces that I see on this meeting tonight who worked so very hard on this ballot measure. And thank you to the voters of Mill Creek for your overwhelming support of annexation into our regional fire authority. All of us at South County Fire look forward to serving all of you. And now I'd like to introduce you to part of our team here at South County Fire. We have Assistant Chief Jason Isotelo, Assistant Chief Michael Fitzgerald, Deputy Chief Bob Eastman, and I think in the crowd here is Public Information Officer Leslie Hines as well. And I notice we have one of our captains, Don Welch, is with us tonight, and our executive assistant to our Board of Commissioners, Melissa Blankenship. And with that, Chair, I'll turn it back over to you if that's okay, Mayor. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to echo Chief's words. In a time of pandemic and virtual meetings and all of the difficulties that our governing bodies have had over the last 2 years. This was pulled off in a very fine fashion, and South County Fire looks forward to continuing to assist and serve the citizens of Mill Creek. As you know, with 3 of our stations surrounding Mill Creek, there's been lots of mutual aid over the years. So lots of our firefighters are well familiar with the city, and we look forward to kind of taking over and serving as your official fire agency to protect the businesses and the residents of Mill Creek.
Thank you, Chair. As I think I mentioned to Chief the day after the election, it struck me as I was driving by Fire Station 76 that on election night, we had 76% of the vote in favor of annexing the South County Fire. So something was in the stars that night. Well, thank you all for being here. We look forward to it to be a transition this year, but look forward to moving forward with South County providing our fire and EMS services for the foreseeable future and hopefully a long time.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And I don't want to take up too much time, but we do have a number of our commissioners here as well. Chair Urban, do you want to do a roll call of the commissioners so they can introduce themselves as well? And Mayor, your discretion on council as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Why don't we
Okay.
go ahead on your side, and then we can have each one of our council members introduce themselves as well.
Okay, I'll just start this off. It's okay, Chair, I think by seniority. Commissioner Jim Kenny, sir. And Commissioner David Chan.
I just wanted to say a few things. I apologize. My makeup crew and my lighting crew is off, so I don't look too good. But I just want to say, finally, I come to you officially. I welcome you as an official capacity, and I appreciate many of your staff and your council member have really participated in really waving signs and do all kinds of stuff. So I'm looking forward to work with you guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Chan. And that brings us to Commissioner Mark Lawrence and Commissioner Derek Daniels and our newest Commissioner, Micah Rowland. And our Vice Chair, Chris Teofilak, could not be with us this evening. So that is our 7-person elected Board of Commissioners for South County Fire. Thank you.
Well, let's just roll down the dais, starting from the far right to where I sit and going on down. Just do a quick introduction of yourself, Mark.
Hello, my name is Mark Bond. Pleasure to meet you and thanks. Welcome to the team.
Councilmember John Steckler, look forward to meeting all of you soon. Thank you.
In person, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Looking forward to this collaboration and one day hope to share the story, how the genesis of this collaboration. So good stuff here, commissioners, chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stephanie Biennial. I just want to thank each one of you. I'm looking forward to beginning our relationship with you and being able to work with you. And as a member of our fire board as well, I'm really looking forward to being able to work on that relationship and build it. And I trust that it's going to be a strong relationship. So thank you very much for showing up tonight.
Hello, I'm Councilmember Melissa Luque, and I'm very excited, and it's wonderful to see so many faces. I had a huge pleasure sign waving with those who I joined, and also thanks to all the residents who requested signs and their support. It was, I appreciate everyone's effort, and I'm excited for this, so thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And again, it's great to see everyone and look forward to meeting everyone in person one of these days.
Did we get Councilmember Allison, Mayor?
Oh, we get her on?
Oh, yeah.
Where is she? Where is she
I'm
on my
virtual.
screen? There you are. Go ahead.
Yeah, just thank you. Thank you for attending the meeting, and I look forward to developing the relationship and, continued good service in the city provided by your fire district.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor. And Leslie Hines is with us. She's about box 20 on my screen. So, Mayor and City Manager, I just want to thank you for the collaboration as well. And it's never a bad time to say good things about staff, but I'm looking at a number of faces that we've worked with here, and you know who you are. all the way back to initial conversations with City Manager Caravina, who I think I see at least the box with his name on it. It's been a great collaboration, and want to give some credit also to former Commissioner Bob Metter, who was part of our team when these discussions started, as well as our former Finance Director, Kathleen Younglove. And with that, I'll close all of my comments. I promise, Mayor. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you, Chief. It's great to see everyone. Look forward
to see
to meeting in
Thank you,
person
Chief.
one of these days.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, we will move on now to item E. I'm sorry. The State of the City video. Martin, did you want me to quickly tee this up?
I can go ahead and tee it up, Mayor.
Okay.
So I think this is the first time that we've had this, at least in my memory. We're excited to bring this State of the City address. It's a video and presentation by their mayor, Mayor Pro Tem. There was a lot of thought put into this project, including their moderator, who we chose, the format, and actually the construction of the video took some expertise by our marketing and communications. Before I hand this over, I'd like to ask the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem if they'd like to say any words about the video. Otherwise, we'll just move forward.
Yeah, just really quick. I mean, one of the strategic priorities we identified was communication at all various levels. And this was an idea that spawned with Stephanie Martin and myself a couple of months ago. And, you know, part of the thought is the press doesn't always report all the good news. They like to report the sensational items. And so part of the goal of this is try to communicate a lot of the good things that are going on in the city and communicate the positive message of what the council and staff are doing to move our city forward. So that was kind of the idea behind this. Stephanie, I don't know if you wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, I agree with the mayor, and really, it's really exciting because we were wanting to come up with a way to get out the good news to people in the community and touch base with them and reach out in a way that is a little more tangible for them. And so I'm excited to see our collaboration come together on this first video to let them know kind of some of the things we're working on, and hopefully we will be doing some more in the future. And I think it's really exciting.
And one more thing, thanks to Jody and Scott and for all the
Yes.
work they put in on putting this together.
Okay, just a note, if you are watching from Zoom, if for any reason it gets interrupted or it's not streaming well, it is on the front page of the cityofmillcreek.com website, so you won't miss out too much.
Hi, my name is Kathy Coffey Solberg, and I am the Executive Director of Leadership Snohomish County. I'm really excited to be here tonight. Leadership Snohomish County is an organization that works with community leaders in our region to break down the barriers between government, business, and nonprofits. We bring together premier leaders, and tonight I happen to get to be sitting with two premier leaders, the Mayor of Mill Creek, Brian Holtzclaw, and the Mayor Pro Tem, Stephanie Biennial. The first question I'm curious about is, what are you excited about for 2022?
I'm really excited about getting back into the planning for what we refer to as the DRCC property. That's the Dobson, Remillard, Cook Church properties. The city bought about 10 acres just north of Freedom Field there on 527, almost 15 years ago. And we've, in fits and starts, tried to do planning for it and hadn't gotten to it till finally last year. We also were able to, a couple years ago, add about almost 5 acres with the church property next door. So now we have 15 acres to plan with. So we started that process last year, and hopefully we can continue that this year. And I'll let Stephanie explain what's going on with it.
I am really excited about the DRCC property and where we're moving with the property. It's been sitting there for quite a while. And as I've been out, when I was out doorbelling, lots of people were asking questions about what we wanted to do with that property. So last year we did start to look at a vision that we would like to have for the property. And we envision the possibility of adding maybe some ball fields, maybe a recreation center, something that the whole community can come together and enjoy and offer more recreation opportunities and bring us together as a community. And I'm really excited that we just received funding from the state to work on our site plan so that we can continue moving that forward this year and start to see it become a reality.
It seems like there's a lot to manage and a lot of exciting things going on in Mill Creek. I hear you're looking for a city manager. Can you tell me what that process looks like and how that's moving along?
We started the process for looking for a city manager by looking for a search firm so that they could go out and spread a broad net and look for the right person to take this role. We are in a great place right now where we're coming out of the pandemic and there's so many opportunities to be able to build for the future. And we need the right to step in and take on that challenge. So the council has just recently, we blessed a schedule. So we are going to come together and we are going to start the process of posting the job. And then there are going to be some comprehensive background checks and interviews. And ultimately, we are looking at bringing the final candidates to the city to meet community and to have final interviews.
What do you see as the primary roles and responsibilities for that position once they're hired?
Well, we have a council manager form of government. So the city manager is the council's one employee. The city's employees work technically for the city manager, not for the council. So we're looking for someone that can work as a partner with the council to help us implement the vision that we have for the city and the priority that we identify. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of candidates that we bring in. Hopefully we can find someone who is interested in staying in the community for a number of years and have some longevity as we've had in the past with prior city managers, but unfortunately haven't had. So I think that's a big priority for the entire council.
It sounds like Mill Creek has done a lot of work already learning from the last 2 years. And you've had smart budget work. You're doing a lot of analysis. I don't think that you can return back to normal. And I think there's a lot of good things that we can learn from the pandemic and where we've been. What has Mill Creek learned and how do you think that that's going to affect your future?
You're right. We have a new normal. I mean, we've had to learn how to deliver services differently, like our passport service. We've had to totally adjust how we can provide that because the limitations and restrictions we've had with gathering people in one place. And I think we've moved into this hybrid world of holding public meetings and council meetings, which I'm excited to see because I've seen more people in our community get engaged in the council meetings, which is great to see. And I tell people, this is your government. And so if you like something we're doing, tell us. If you don't like something we're doing, tell us. But you've got to come to the meetings to tell us.
That's so exciting. And it really increases access for everybody in the community to have a voice in shaping your new normal. So what else are you excited about?
Well, one thing that's going to take up a lot of time this year, but especially in 2023 and 24, is planning for the areas south of Central Market or south of Town Center going down to 527. Council formed a work group of council members and staff, and citizens from our various boards and property owners to look at what we can do with that area, what we could do with that area in the future, not immediately, but how we may want to see it redeveloped in 10, 15, 20, 30 years. It's exciting because we've got the green line on 527. The orange line will be coming. They break ground here next week for that to get people out to the light rail. So we have a real great opportunity to do some visioning of how we want to see that developed over time. And it's a great opportunity to both provide some economic development opportunities while also addressing some of our obligations under the Growth Management Act to plan for the population that's projected to come to us over the next 20 years. So it's going to be a lot of community engagement. We're going to need it's not just us deciding what we want it to look like. This is going to be a community discussion of what we want our city to look like 20 or 30 years from now.
So how do residents stay informed so they can learn how to be involved and use their voice?
It's important for all of our residents to realize that we're here for them. We are their representatives and we need to hear from them. So there are many ways for them to reach out to us. They can come in to participate online with our city council meetings, and there's always public comment time for them there. They can reach out and email us. Each of the council members, our email addresses are right there on the website, and we love to hear from our residents to know what's going on with them. Brian and I are doing city chats now once a month where we're asking people to come together and ask us anything they want. It's really informal, so that's a great opportunity for them to get informed and have their voice heard as well. So I just want to make sure that everyone, doesn't think to themselves they shouldn't reach out. They need to make sure that they reach out to us because we're here for them.
We're trying to do a better job of communicating, getting the word out. We've got a great communications team that is helping us take advantage of social media, which is a challenging platform at times, but it's also a great platform to get information out and help keep people informed of what's going on in the city. As Stephanie said, we started these coffee chats about 1.5 years ago, and we're just now getting to a regular schedule. So it's really an opportunity, it's an open forum for us and for the opportunity for the public to tell us things that they think we need to know. The opportunity for them to tell them what we're doing wrong and we need to fix. But I tell them also tell us what we're doing right so we don't stop doing it or do it differently that doesn't work out as well. So we're starting to see the attendance pick up, which is great. They're just virtual now, but hopefully the attendance will continue to pick up so we can keep that line of communication open.
It's exciting. I find that I'm excited, and even looking at leadership in our region, I'm really excited that you two are doing this work in Mill Creek, and I think there's a lot to look forward to.
Very excited about all the things that we have moving forward, and I'm looking forward to implementing them, and I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is part of our strategy to help get information out to the public. So I'm glad we were able to do this. We've got a great team. It's not just the two of us. We've got 7 great council members. We've got great directors and great staff. It takes a team to put this all together and keep us moving forward. So I'm excited for what the future holds for me. Thank you again to Scott and Jody for your work putting that together. Martin, did you have anything else you wanted to say regarding
Nothing else, Mayor. Thank you, Scott and Jody, for everything.
Anything from the
Amazing.
council? Okay. Seeing none, back to old business, but continuing business. Item F, their city manager search update, acting city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So as we all know, we've been in the process of recruiting a city manager, which is planned to end sometime toward the end of June, beginning of July. Currently, there are 4 phases of the process. We're currently in phase 2. The Linnell Klein, who I'll hand over in just a minute, will provide a little more details on kind of where we're at and where we're going forward, and how many applicants we received applications for. With that, I don't have anything else on that. So I'll hand it over to Ms. Klein with Colin Bainziger and Associates. Linnell.
All right, well, thank you so much. So we had 14 applications, which is lower than we expected. It was a little bit of a surprise. But in the mix, we have a few experienced managers. We have some up and coming managers. And we have some other possibilities that we haven't really had a chance to speak with yet to determine whether they would be a good fit for the city. But we'll review the applications and start interviewing the candidates and begin the background checks this next week on those that we feel like would be a good fit. One thing we've noticed since the pandemic is we had to extend the deadline for our recruitments, and we're not sure why, but it's just a pattern that we've noticed in the last few years. And so we are planning to extend this search until May 20th. This will not affect the schedule the way that it currently stands. We'll just work faster and harder to get the background checks done in time so that we can keep to the same schedule that we've already established. But we've noticed that when we've extended searches in the past, we sometimes get better candidates during that extension period of time. So we're very hopeful that we'll have a great group of candidates to bring to you. And I agree with the mayor. The mayor said earlier, the city's in such a great place, and it's been really wonderful to work with you and feel the energy at City Hall. When I was doing some of the marketing this week, I had somebody ask me, and I just said, "Oh, there's such a good energy at City Hall," and so it's really wonderful to be part of this search. But we'll keep you posted as we go along. And like I said, even though we're going to extend the deadline for applications, we will remain to the same schedule.
Thank you, Linnell. Can you remind us what the next step is for the council in the process?
So, and I don't have my project schedule up. The next step will be we will be completing the background checks. And I believe that the reports are due on June 6th, but I will double check that. And if that's not correct, I'll send Martin a note. So for the next, 3.5 weeks, we're going to be vetting all of the candidates. And then we will present you with the candidate reports on June 6th that have the summary of our background checks. And so you can get a feel for who they are. And then a week later, you will decide who you want to interview from that group.
Okay. Councilmember Cavalieri, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Linnell. Thank you. Couple of quick questions. 14 applicants seems oddly low. Do you have an idea of what, I want to say our last batch, and the only reason I can ask you this is because I believe you were affiliated with the search, or your firm was. Weren't we in the 70s or 80s in the initial search pool, number one? And this low number, besides COVID, what would you attribute that to?
I don't have the numbers from the last search in front of me. I do apologize for that. So I can't really speak to that. But I'm really not sure what the numbers are. I heard feedback that the brochure, they liked the brochure. They thought the salary range was competitive. There were a few people who said, "I'd like to make the jump, just now's not the right time." We did a lot of marketing, networked with several managers and assistant city managers, and some just weren't interested in making a move at this time. Others were it just wasn't good timing. They were involved in projects and not ready to make the jump. I do think that just personally, and nationally, some of the fears with inflation and where things are going may affect searches, because I feel like all of our searches in the last month have been a little bit low. We had, ironically, we had another one close today, or yesterday, the same day. And I think there were 17 applications for that one. So I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not sure that it has anything to do with Mill Creek either, based on what we're seeing in our other searches. I think it's just general fear about what's happening right now.
And so I'm glad, I don't know why that's happening. I'm glad we're having this conversation because the public should hear it as well. Do you think, as the firm that is the city's employee at this time, that perhaps as a recommendation, maybe, I don't know, pulling back the search, halting the search, maybe trying to find a more optimal time? I mean, besides extending the deadline, I'm just not sure if the process seems to be fruitful at this point.
I think we have some worthy candidates.
And just, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I don't know who the candidates are, so this is not disrespectful to anybody. I believe it's like 1/10 the number, or maybe 1/8 the number we had last time. So it's bothersome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. We have some good candidates in the mix, and I think it's worth moving forward. One thing that I will say is we have a guarantee with our firm. If we bring you a group of candidates and you interview them and none of them are the right fit, we do the search over again, and there's no additional charge to you. So we will keep working until you're happy. So you don't have to pick anyone from the group that we have, but I do feel that there are some worthy candidates in the mix that it's worth moving forward.
Okay, thank you. So
Councilmember Steckler has a question.
Yeah, I was just going to call him, John.
Hi, Leno. Yeah,
Hi.
I'm sure I echo everyone's thoughts. The candidate count seems relatively low. I know historically you do get another burst at the end of a run, so we're going to get another burst at the end when our window closes. But my question for you is, can you review for us what's been going on with the marketing on this? I know we had a 60,000 mailer that was going out across the country. Did that email campaign go out? When did it go out? What have we been doing locally to promote? Is there anything that we could be doing in the middle of this surge? Could we be doing additional marketing to try and get some additional activity, get some additional awareness, get some additional, I'm very interested in local activity and awareness as well. So can you tell me what you have done and what else could we be doing in addition to?
So I emailed the brochure to every city in the state of Washington, every city manager and assistant or deputy city manager in the state of Washington of cities 10,000 population or larger. When I could find their email address, there were probably a few that I wasn't able to reach. I followed up with phone calls. I was able to reach a lot of them and talk to them. And so I do feel that our coverage has been really good within the manager system locally and here. I have had conversations with a few Friday and Monday, and I heard, well, we're not quite ready to apply yet. And I plan to go back to those individuals and say, oh, we're extending the deadline if you'd like to apply. So we will continue doing the marketing that we have done, but we have reached out to a much broader range than we typically do, just because we knew it was really important to Mill Creek that we do so.
So that's the local. What have we been doing nationally?
Nationally, we have reached out to some of the contacts that we have that we know that are in the market. We did send our email. We sent 3 different mailers. We had one right when we posted the brochure. We have one about 5 days or about a week before it closes. And then we actually sent another one just to put it on everyone's radar.
So is this similar to what we did in our last engagement with you, the same type of marketing that we did in the last engagement?
I believe we did more marketing this time than we did last time.
More this time. Okay. So the same amount of national and local exposure that we did last time. If not,
I would say the same national and more local this time.
Okay, so there's not any less. Is there anything in addition you could recommend at this stage that we could do? Any ideas that we could do to help spread the word more?
Not that I can think of right now, but if I think of anything, I'll be sure to send an email to Martin and Naomi. And like I said, we'll continue our marketing efforts as well. Because it's really important to us to bring you guys a good city manager. So
I'm just thinking now in the time in the middle of our campaign right now would be, rather than bringing those ideas up at the end of the campaign, now be the time to, if you have any suggestions for us, we'd like to hear about them now.
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Linnell, thank you for the update, and we look forward to hearing what transpires the next couple of weeks, see if we get some more applications come forth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lino.
I gotta get I don't have my agenda up. I believe I'm turning it over now to Mr. Reinhardt, city engineer, for presentation on the capital facilities.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight to talk about the 2023-2028 Capital Improvement Plan. I'd like to tonight build upon a presentation that Finance Director Brock gave to you 2 weeks ago, talking about the schedule and work plan for the overall biennial budgetary effort by presenting to you how the capital plan schedule fits into that particular planning effort and what I'm looking forward to working with you all on here for the next few months. I also want to bring up a presentation that I gave to City Council last September, where I introduced as part of my general presentation on capital engineering concepts and such. I talked a little bit about the process of the capital improvement plan and how it's put together. And I will actually present a couple of those slides again tonight, but I included in your packet also the presentation from last September as well, just for your reference and such. And so with that, I will try and share my screen here, since I should have done that before I started talking. Okay. So the things I want to cover tonight, I want to talk a little bit about the purpose, intent, and requirements of a capital improvement plan. I want to review a couple ideas that I introduced to you last September about the stages and steps, essentially answering one of the most important questions of capital improvement plan development, which is how do we get from an idea suggested to an adopted capital improvement plan by the end of this year. Timeline for that plan delivery, kind of the steps that we'll take and when we're planning on doing those within the time frame that we have. And then I want to just kind of briefly review with you the steps that we'll be taking in the next 3 months, because it's the next 3 months that really kind of set this up for the roller coaster that is very often the fall effort with council. And then hear any questions you have. So the capital improvement plan is a 6-year plan. It is required by the State Growth Management Act of all cities. We're required to create that plan to address both the maintenance of existing city services related to city infrastructure, as well as any expansion that's required to keep pace with growth or in the demand or the need for services for our residents and businesses. We combine the work plan of identified projects and programs with a financing plan. So we kind of show in the 6-year plan how are we thinking about funding these particular projects, and it define in that some of the financial expectations that we might have for the especially the outer years of the 6-year plan, as well as seek City Council approval of the appropriations for the first 2 years of the plan. We do revise the 6-year plan every 2 years. And this is actually fairly important because it gives us multiple chances at projects. The first 2 years, as I mentioned, is our budget allocation stage as part of the biennial budget. The 3rd through 6th years, we're identifying preliminary financing, including some of our financing constraints, so that we can work for the next couple of years on identifying potential alternatives and solutions to those. It's also necessary because in a dynamic city, capital improvement plans do take a lot of time, effort, and energy put together, but at the same time, you want to be able to go back and revise them in a fairly timely periodic fashion. So we do have to develop and adopt the capital improvement plan in a schedule that is compatible with the biennial budget adoption schedule, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to present this to you tonight, building off of the presentation on the biennial budget process 2 weeks ago. Projects and related efforts are prioritized and scoped as part of this plan. Usually we have a number of different parameters we all have to juggle at the same time, and that's growth of existing infrastructure needs, the desire for new or replacement capabilities and services, the funding available, both what we actually know and what we anticipate, The difficulty and the required time to deliver, the staffing and outside resource requirements to deliver projects, the city capability and resources to sustainably maintain something once we deliver on it. And this is, again, something I emphasized from last fall. We want to make sure that we're always building or constructing improvements that we know that we can sustainably maintain over time. It doesn't do us any good to invest in infrastructure development and whatnot if we can't maintain it long term. And this is a balancing challenge. And so it's a very iterative set of steps as we're going through to find that right balance between all these various parameters. There's an additional requirement, and this is something that the city of Mill Creek has not done very recently, and I'm trying to reintroduce it because it is a very important part of this process, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan. The Transportation Improvement Plan is a 5-year plan rather than a 6-year plan. It is a plan that we're supposed to update annually, not just biannually. So I want to bring it up to date this year, and then plan on continually updating it on an annual basis. That Transportation Improvement Plan does include all the approved and anticipated transportation-oriented capital improvement projects that the city has. And once we adopt it, we then introduce that city Transportation Improvement Plan into the state plan, because that positions us for securing transportation related grants, particularly on the federal level, but also on the state level to some extent. So I mentioned this last September. There's some tricky acronyms in this, and I'm going to try very hard not to slip. But as Public Works Director Mike Todd has caught me more than once already slipping, if at any point in time I do and I'm confusing, please catch me and ask me. I appreciate it. So CIP is a very common acronym that ends up applying to a bunch of different things. I'm not going to use acronyms as much as possible tonight. I may going forward, but generally speaking, when I'm talking about CIP between now and November, I'm going to try to only be talking about the capital improvement plan. That is the 6-year plan that I'll be presenting to you. CIP can also, as I mentioned last September, stand for capital improvement projects or programs. There's 2 other acronyms that very often float out there related to this. The TIP is the Transportation Improvement Plan, and the CFP, which is the Capital Facilities Plan. Oops, well, that would have been a quick presentation. So 4 stages that we follow in developing and implementing and delivering a capital improvement plan: concept, scoping, design, and construction. For the purposes of our capital improvement plan this year, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about both tonight and then in the near future here is the concept and scoping stages, because that's where we are taking the ideas, fully fleshing them out, bringing them to you for your consideration and approval, and then developing the funding plan for as part of the 6-year adopted CIP, Capital Improvement Plan. See, I'm already breaking my own rules. We do have a couple different categories of projects. Transportation projects, which I tend to break into 2 smaller units. Because very often this is important both from the standpoint of our city planning efforts as well as chasing external funding opportunities. One is streets projects, so that includes intersections, signals, illumination, and then what I call non-motorized projects, which primarily focuses on your transportation improvements that don't involve motor vehicles. Where those fit, there's a little bit of an overlap between those. And so I don't want to get too far into that, but that's generally how I kind of break these out. We have surface water utility capital projects, we have parks capital projects, and then we have facilities capital projects. So ideas come at us from a number of different directions. And we try and bring them together, compile them, and that is in fact what we're working on right now and have been working on here for the last few months to develop what we call the preliminary list. So sources can come from city strategic planning, so our various comprehensive facilities and transportation surface water plans, neighborhood plans, parks plans. We have projects that come at us as a reaction or a response to damage claims in the past or maintenance, public works maintenance, operations and maintenance history. We have projects that come at us from citizen suggestions, council requests, and other public interest directions. And then finally, we occasionally will have projects that come to us from other entities and partnerships. Very often, those sorts of projects are an opportunity for the city to do a capital project in conjunction with the capital programs of one of those other public aid entities. So then we do introduce it into this flow chart that I introduced last September. So we start with the preliminary list that I mentioned. And this half of the slide is what we call the concept stage. This half of the slide is what we call the scoping stage. So once it goes into the concept stage, we've got to flesh it out a little bit. We got to give this project some identity. So we'll give it a brief description. We'll identify direct stakeholders to get more information from as we need it, and then work with those stakeholders to make sure that we understand the concept that we want to introduce here, including any details, specific requests or elements or features that they want to have in it. And then we start working on establishing it in its prioritization. Now, at some point in time during this review process, and as you can see from the arrows, it does bounce back and forth between these things, we're going to make one of three decisions. Decision number one is to pass it to the scoping stage. Decision number two is to move it to what we're calling the not adopted list. So this project is going to still stay on a list of future projects that the city wants to do, but we're not necessarily quite ready to drop it into the 6-year CIP just yet. Or there's always going to be ideas that come at us. They may have some merit to them. They may be good ideas in some respects and whatnot, but they're just not ideas that we can pursue as the city of Mill Creek at this point in time. And so they may be discarded. Once it goes to the scoping stage, it follows a similar but somewhat more robust process. That includes working with the stakeholders to continue fully fleshing out the project description. In some cases, there may be some studies that we have to program in advance of design in order to get the work done. But one of the most critical things that we have to do in the scoping stage is to develop an updated or a new project estimate. So how much is this going to cost the city? How much does it cost us to construct? How much is it going to cost to design? And also, cost isn't just the dollar figures, but also those staffing resources or those outside resources that I mentioned earlier. Start to identify those. And in keeping with that conversation is then how does it fit into the city's priorities? How does it rate against projects, both of similar type and other projects that we want to accomplish with the city? And then again, a project in scoping stage can end up in one of three places. It can end up being recommended to City Council to adopt into the 6-year capital improvement plan. It could get routed to the not adopted list, or if it just doesn't really kind of hold up as something that we want to do long term, it may be discarded. So in keeping with some of the things that I described and some of the tasks that we have, one is the information sheets and the work plans for capital improvement programs and the individual information sheets for capital projects. So this is an elaboration, hopefully a very organized elaboration that I want to present to you later this year. That's similar in a lot of respects to the CIP sheets that you've seen in past updates, but I'm hoping to make it a little more understandable and approachable when I'm talking about programs that are creating projects as well as the individual projects themselves. And in particular, focus in on the funding allocations and whatnot to individual projects, especially if those projects are being spun out by programs, just so that you have a good understanding of what I'm actually bringing to you and presenting in terms of a funding decision or a funding allocation decision. We do make sure that we assign a project number to that, and we're looking at a more options for a more approachable project numbering scheme. So it's not, we don't run into situations like we had, for instance, earlier this year, where I came to you with a 19 PWXX number because we didn't have a chance chance to actually give a project number to it. We'll have abbreviated sheets for those projects that are not adopted into the 6-year capital improvement plan, so that we can keep those project identity and bring them back maybe in a subsequent capital improvement project planning effort in the future. And then finally, take all that information and compile it into the summary ledgers by category that will show you the years and the total proposed and anticipated project related expenses during those years. That would be part of the deliverables that I will bring later on this year. So with that, I wanted to quickly kind of go over the schedule and some of the things that I'm going to be working on during these particular periods of time. So what I've been working on right now, and actually I've been working on it here for a few months leading up to this, so May is really just a continuation of my process here, is developing the schedule, what I'm outlining to you tonight, inventorying that preliminary list. We've got a lot of project ideas that we've talked about over the years. There's a lot of projects out there, for instance, the DRCC, that really are multiple projects in one kind of overall whole, but making sure that we have that inventory of new ideas and old ideas alike, so that it's all in one place and we're looking at everything at the same time. And then to take one last look at our prioritization feasibility policies and methods. These are the rules of the road that city council and city managers have kind of already established for what our policies are. This is me going back to look at the 2015 comprehensive plan to make sure that our prioritization is in line with the comprehensive plan. Starting at the beginning of June, I will really get into taking each one of those preliminary list items and starting to take them through the concept and the scoping stages. Some of them, like for instance, projects in past CIPs, they've already gone through the scoping stage to a certain extent. So the main thing with those I'll be doing is just updating. And that includes updating the estimates. We're in a kind of a gray area right now, so far as the impact of inflation on construction costs and such. So I'll be looking at what other people are prognosticating related to how much that might impact construction costs in the next 6 years as part of that update effort. But it will also be, as I mentioned before, developing the scopes and the estimates associated with the new ideas as well. So that will pretty much take us into July. In July, I will work on finishing those estimates. The estimates tends to be one of the more time-consuming aspects of this, because you can get it very, very wrong if you don't put enough time into each one, looking at each one of the projects and how much is it reasonably going to cost. And then putting together those individual sheets and such. The goal of that is to have the general program of all the projects fleshed out and ready to go for the first of the finance targets that is kind of related to this capital planning effort, which is finance supplying to the departments, including the Public Works Department, the projected contributions, the projected revenues that are anticipated that we should be setting the project ledger out against. And from there in August, I will sit down and address the feasibility and prioritization of those projects based on those projections, what can fit in the ledger, what can't fit in the ledger, and complete a draft capital improvement plan package and supply that to the various directors that need to take a look at it in August. We'll work on getting that to the city manager towards the end of August so that we are ready to go in September to be able to provide that preliminary capital improvement package to council for your consideration at study sessions, and also to release it onto the city webpage. September will then begin that ability to start letting the public see the CIP, see the capital improvement plan, the preliminary one, and provide us some feedback and comment on it wherever and however we can, so that we can get that into it. I have identified 2 city council meetings for study sessions related to the capital improvement plan. I usually plan for 2 because it's my experience that that you come to city council with the first study session, that you will have feedback from me, and I want to make sure that I go back and make adjustments based on your feedback after that first study session. So that is the reason why I've identified 2. The council meeting after that would be where I would anticipate right now, beginning of October, having a public hearing for the capital improvement plan and the transportation improvement plan at a city council meeting, and then have kind of preliminarily identified the date of October 11th as an anticipated city council adoption of the capital improvement plan, transportation improvement plan. That allows that to be done and off the council's attention, so that the focus can then be on the rest of the biennial budget during the next couple council meetings, as Finance Director Brock outlined. So I pretty much went over that, so I'm just going to keep this slide out there in case there are questions related to anything that I've presented tonight.
Thank you, Frank. Are there any questions from council?
I have a question, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. I was just curious, I'd mentioned the possibility of starting a capital facilities committee at the last meeting so that we could get some input from residents and work directly with them for some ideas. How could we work on implementing a capital facilities committee in with this process?
So I remember your suggestion, and I think my primary recommendation to City Council is that we're a little short on time. And that's why I want to open up as many possibilities as I can for people who are interested to be able to comment on the effort. Usually, I've seen an idea like what you suggested used in other cities. But they've allowed for a little more time to be able to set that group up, because there's a lot that goes into, introducing people to the comprehensive plan, introducing people to the various other plans that are feeding it, and the city's priorities and whatnot. That can get pretty rushed if you try and cram it into just a few months and whatnot. Most of the cities that I've seen that have tackled similar ideas have actually started that process about 11 months out from the actual schedule that I kind of laid out here. So that's why I recommend that the idea is worthy of consideration on the next capital improvement plan in a couple of years, but we might be short of time this year, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Frank, for that. I know that Council Member Bond was interested in helping me with this, and I'm really interested in this. And so I'm wondering if there's some way, I hear what you're saying, that it takes some time to get something like this implemented, but I'm wondering if there's a way we could come up with something that we could do as a precursor now, and then flesh out the whole committee for the future. So just the thought that maybe we can have some discussions on that as we move forward.
Frank, could you unshare your screen so I can see?
Of course.
Thank you. Councilmember Duque?
Thank you. So I had 2 questions. I'll reverse my order because it's based off of what Mayor Pro Tem suggested, or had the question about residents' input. Sorry, we're having an echo in here and I don't have audio on, so I'm just making sure. Is it in someone else's computer? I'll try again. Okay, great. This is a little better then. Thank you. Okay, so my first question is, when you talk about residents' input in the, I think you said it was in the schedule, it would be September, October. Okay, good. You're nodding your head. What is that input that we're looking for? It's not ideas, because that's already happened.
Right.
So is it more priorities that you want people to say, that's the one, that's a big one, or that, is that what we're looking for at that time?
Excuse me. A couple different things. So ideas are something that I'm always open to. That can start. In fact, it has started. As I've been attending meetings and whatnot, both with city staff at city council meetings and meetings with the public when I've had them. I've usually had my little notepad with me writing down ideas as people have thrown them my direction so that we make sure that we capture them. So that end of things, the door is already open on. The tricky thing about that is that, as you observed, I think within your question there, is there's a certain point in time where an idea comes at us when it's too late to really develop it in a conscientious and comprehensive fashion, responsible fashion and whatnot. I don't want to, say that there's a cutoff and whatnot, but certainly as we start to get towards August, and I'm working hard on putting together the overall capital improvement plan, there's going to be a certain point in time where that's where, good ideas that may not be able to get as much definition might end up on the not adopted list just for that reason. Once we get to September, to answer now the other half of the question that you've asked, it's important to look at the CIP as a whole. It's really important not to look at bits and pieces of it. And so that's why I want to give people the chance to look at the capital improvement project plan as a whole, because then they can see not just, this project is there, that project is not there, this project is in 2023 or 24, this project is out in 2026, but also perhaps to a certain extent why it was put there relative to the amount of funding that's there. And then there's a chance for them to give both city staff and myself input, as well as city council input, as to whether or not, well, we would certainly like to do this project faster, so that city council has an opportunity to maybe shift things around if it makes sense that we've put a project, let's say, out 4 years, and it may be a project that is a higher priority, or we want to put forward as a higher priority, in which case we got to then go back and kind of shuffle the deck a little bit to get it all to fit again. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. That's what I needed to understand in terms of how we're communicating, what this looks like. And for me to understand when we're looking for input, what does that mean? So I will hold that it's the overall package is what we're looking for in the whole plan. So that was very helpful. The second question was more of I don't know how your schedule is very ambitious. And I say that as a project manager. So I just was looking at it in that way. And so one of my notes was, is it just you doing all this? How many other people are on the staff that's working on it? It feels to me, I guess my question is more of it, is it realistic that we're asking you and staff on top of your other job, your main, like what you're doing to handle all this? And I think maybe based off of what Mayor Pro Tem mentioned in your response about having it 11 months back and you're trying to get the transportation, that it's for me very helpful to see that you're thinking about this in the long term, about how this needs to become annual, some parts, and you're thinking about that. That was just my big note, was how many are you? I didn't realize you could clone yourself. So I don't know if there was a question. It's more of a statement that this seems like a lot. And I thank you for your time and for making it so clear on your schedule.
Well, with your permission, I'll go ahead and respond to that. First of all, thank you, Councilmember Duque. It is a heavy lift. I'm not alone in this. I've got a good backing of people in terms of Director Todd, Public Works Supervisor Matthew Combs, and whatnot. It's not an ideal staff level. We are shy a significant element, especially with project engineers and whatnot. So you are correct. I am juggling a lot right now, but this one's a necessary. It's an absolute necessity that we are in a lot of respects restricted by the capital improvement plan that we have out there right now. That we adopted 2 years ago. That unfortunately is an example. I mean, it was a necessary situation 2 years ago, but nonetheless, it was a capital improvement plan that was adopted at the last minute by City Council, and was kind of a race to pull it together. It is something that needs to be adopted as part of the finance planning and such. And So we do need to make it a priority, and I need to make it a priority as I'm juggling my other responsibilities and such, to see that this capital improvement plan is built out. Because in a lot of ways, if I don't deliver on that, then we are challenged for at least another year, if not another 2 years, in terms of not just our own planning, our own delivery of projects and the things that we want to do, but also our pursuit of, for instance, things like external grant opportunities and such. If we don't have it on our plan, then we are not competitive in the grant world for securing, especially state and federal grants. And I want to get us better positioned for exactly that. And that makes it a priority for me.
Mr. Mayor, may I break in? This is Mike Todd. My screen
Yes,
is locked
please.
out. So
Yes.
Frank, valiant effort. Thank you. The reality is we had a project engineer. The project engineer was taken by another city. We're looking for somebody. We're having a really hard time. Engineers are hard to come by. Our pace scales don't make it easy. So Frank is trying to do this by himself with my help and with Matthew's help and the planning director that is the interim planning director. So we are really thin. We're asking about three people's worth of work out of Frank. And so Frank is doing the best he can. Back to your original question, this is the time. If you've got concept ideas, early concept ideas, send them to us. We don't have time to go out and make a big public process because Frank doesn't have the hours to do it. But you can send us ideas. You can say, hey, here's something we'd like you to think about. The public would like to do that. This is the time to put those into the hopper so that we can look at that long list. As Frank said, he's inventorying all these lists, these ideas we've been collecting. So get those to us. The formal process for public hearings is as he specified. But really, that is, you're pointing out, Councilmember Duque, that's where you kind of are prioritizing and saying, oh, we only have so many dollars, we only have so much staff, we only have so much time. How do we to say it's more important to fix this roof or to build a new something? So thanks for your recognition on that.
Councilmember Steckler.
Hey, Frank, thank you for the presentation. I may have missed this. It was just a question. As we're going through these projects, I noticed that you've got your schedule where you go through and do all the research and due diligence and collecting all the data, and then it comes to the council is what I saw. I was wondering, would it make sense to have the ideas come before council in an early stage, just for a brief overview to see if there is an acceptance or non-acceptance before you go through all that work? That might save you some effort or time, and maybe just a one quick study session or something like that at the early stage, just to before you go through all that work process. I always hate to see that when I see somebody come to us with a finished project that they put a whole bunch of hours in, and council comes back with, no, we really don't want to see us moving ahead with that. I would just like to see us avoid those hours. Just it's not a question and it's not a demand. It's not even it's a suggestion only.
I appreciate that, Councilmember Steckler. What I would say as far as that goes is a couple things. One is to reinforce what Director Todd kind of mentioned here just a couple minutes ago, which is, and this is actually, I was thinking in particular of, for instance, the DRC, just to pick an example. And the Mayor Pro Tem's comments during the presentation about that is, if there's an opportunity to talk with council a little bit about the ideas, especially ideas that we might look at in the short term. I mean, there is the state funding for a planning to go forward as far as the DRC, and that will certainly be part of the biennial budgetary process. But if there are opportunities or ideas that people have, let's say related to the DRCC, that may be more of the project in advance of that plan. And so to give you an example of that, the DRCC is going to require stormwater infrastructure to support it. And so one of the things I'm kind of thinking about right now is there a stormwater improvement project that I can get onto the capital improvement plan right now to support the DRCC in a flexible fashion? So we don't necessarily have to have figured out what we're going to do with the DRCC, but some of the the pipes and catch basins that we will need to support that project are something that we've already gone in there. If there is a conversation there, that we can focus on a bundle, a theme, if you will, of projects that will help me flesh out ideas, I'm totally open to that. If there's an opportunity on council meetings and recognizing, the other busy agenda that you have during the next 3 months, I'm certainly willing to that. As Director Todd mentioned, I'm also open to any input ideas. If we want to throw something into the hopper and get it onto the preliminary list, now is definitely the time to do it. And if there's a study session mechanism that might make that a useful exercise, I'm certainly open to it. My big sensitivity is to make sure that there's enough time to get everything pulled together. And like I said, I'm always sensitive about having a conversation in isolation, because when you're looking at the capital improvement plan, it's most helpful to look at the whole thing, even if you're windowing in on a specific element of that, just to make sure that you're always talking about your priorities in that broad spectrum, whatever. Since we really don't have we don't have a parks department that's only working on parks projects, a stormwater utility that's only working on stormwater utility. And so very often our delivery as a city is we're looking at all those projects together at the same time. So that would be the only other thing. Does that answer your thought?
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, it's
okay.
You brought up a great suggestion. As a suggestion, DRC is one example of a project I wouldn't want you to do any work on, because we're still, as our last meeting, still not in agreement in direction or in any way, shape, or form. So any direction you took could easily be a misdirection, because we're not still in agreement here as to which direction we'd want you to go.
Mm-hmm.
But, albeit a stormwater feasibility study might be a good one, but then again, you don't really know a feasibility study based on what type of structure or outcome. Is it a baseball field? Is it a building? What is it? It would be hard. That alone could make it an exercise in futility, because you're not really sure what you're building. So if we could provide you direction, or provide you, what I'm trying to do is give you the most amount of direction that would not wind up with a frustration at the end of, well, we're not really ready to go in that direction yet after you've done the work.
Certainly.
That's my concern.
And what I would recommend there is, this is why I want to turn the not adopted list into a functional tool. I'm not certain that it has been optimized in past CIPs to the level that I think is really important and really critical, because that's the tool that keeps the situation that you're describing, Councilmember Steckler, from really getting us in trouble. A lot of times there's a desire and a demand for every single project idea to take it all the way to it's ready to be designed and whatnot. And that is, I agree, a chance to get really very far off track. And so that idea that I tossed out, for instance, as my example, and I want to emphasize it was an example, is an idea that right now is nothing more than just the lines that I just described to you on the preliminary list. I could take that to a concept, flesh it out as a concept, and then say, or have Director Todd tell me that we can't go any further with that right now. There's too many unknowns and whatnot, in which case, in the form that I just described it to you, it would stop at the adopted list for future consideration. It may be that we can cover a few more bases. I can get to as far as a scoping stage. And there again, we get to the scoping stage, we get a preliminary estimate of it, and then we realize there's just too many unknowns to pin it down. And again, make sure that our work is preserved for future consideration in a future CIP by using that not adopted list. So that is a tool that I want to make sure to emphasize I plan on using to try and make sure that the problem that you're describing here is a managed problem.
Thank you.
Councilmember Allison.
Thank you. I was just wondering, it's intern season right now. Have you considered maybe looking for a civil engineer or even a project engineer that would be interested in maybe filling an intern position within the city? I echo what Councilmember Duque was talking about. This seems like a monumental task to take on with only one person. You know, it isn't even your full-time job. You have other responsibilities you have to track. Have you considered an intern?
Thank you, Councilmember Allison. I'm actually kind of crossing my fingers that our most present job listing is actually going to sweep in at least some of the people that are graduating from UW and other places in the not distant future here. The basic principle that we want to make sure of is that we're not just hiring a warm body. Because a lot of times, especially in the engineering world, with the due diligence that's required, as I know you're familiar with from having talked with you, the less experienced they are, the more supervision they require. And so there's a certain loss of efficiency associated with internships and related such. Indeed, to be honest with you, most of the places I've worked in the past that had a solid internship program also had a senior engineer that was tasked specifically with corralling and monitoring the aforementioned interns to make sure that they weren't spinning their wheels, they weren't getting lost, they were delivering something that then I could turn around and deliver to you as a vetted and reviewed product. So the focus as a consequence has still remained on hiring inexperienced, but still quality over quantity as far as the labor, the hands and heads that we need in order to make this work. And so it's not outside the realm of possibility still yet. That job posting is out there. And we're looking for, somebody, we're looking for a relatively low level of qualification, to be honest with you. We're willing to grow engineers in the position just like in the past and make that work. But we do want to make sure that we hire somebody who we don't necessarily have to teach from square one how to do that, because that's actually less efficient than our current circumstances.
Okay.
Councilmember Cavallari. I'm sorry, did you have another question, Connie?
No, it's been covered by other people, so thanks.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is kind of dovetailed into a very interesting dynamic, because I think if there's anything we've learned with the overwhelming desire for police laterals is that we have to up our game. We have to do videos, we have to pay more, we have to have bonuses, and that's just in that realm. But Director Todd, you might be able to answer this because you did mention it. When you said we're lacking in the pay scale, I think were your words. How far back are we? And is that something that this council needs to address sooner rather than later? So we're not dealing from the back of the deck?
Yeah, good question. I think it's one of the things we've talked about using a consultant, but now we have Debbie Mills on board is going to help us out. We've taken a look at the Awc Salary Survey. It's a way for us to look at other cities like us and what they pay for. First, it was senior planners. We really struggled with that. Now with project engineers, we're about 10 to 12% below the market. So anybody who's out there who is capable is seeing a higher salary range. Now, maybe they're junior. We don't need to pay them at the top of the range, but we're missing out on folks who look at that range and go like, oh, I could do better at Marysville, or I could do better at WashDOT, or I could do better at a private consultant. So we're really having a tough time. The flow is just non-existent. Instead of having 10 people to choose from, we have 0 to choose from. They're qualified on many of these positions. So that's a tough thing to do. I think what's going to come back to council, hopefully we are going to focus on this, and I know it's been focused for Martin, and our entire staff has talked about this, is doing that salary survey and figuring out where we need to do to get competitive, because we're just not making it on planners, engineers from me, but I think we've had struggle with some of these other positions too. I think staffing is one of the biggest obstacles we've got right now from top to bottom. It's been a challenge.
And I think the council should address this sooner rather than later, for the simple fact is, and we've seen this before, where even the staff that exists here starts suffering burnout, big workload, overburdened or whatever. So I'd like to make this a priority. I don't know what the consensus on the council is, but I think it's important.
Yeah, if I may,
Yep, I
Councilmember.
was going to call on the acting city manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Cavallari. So we'll talk more about staffing in a little bit, but one of the things we talked about as of yesterday is our priority, our number one priority, and that's a salary study. A salary study that will encompass reviewing all the positions across the city of Mill Creek. Mainly the non-PD positions first, and then anything civilian related, both represented and not non-represented. So it's number one on our list right now. So just to ensure the council and the public know that is our focus. It's part of our plan to focus on what our core needs are, and that's working on staffing and supporting our staff in ways from a salary standpoint, benefit standpoint, as our HR manager mentioned yesterday. So we have just a handful of priorities right now, and that's one of them. Thank you.
Councilmember Bond.
Thank you. So I'm just going to kind of chime in on this because I've been beating this drum for a little bit. When we were going through some of our challenges and still are in the police department, I said it wasn't an anomaly. It was a nationwide thing. It was citywide or county and statewide for sure. And if you've turned on the news, you've seen the city of Seattle recently decided there was some value in police work. And they managed to hire 13 people, but in that same window lost 50. So we're not alone in this struggle. This is a very competitive market. The folks that we're trying to recruit at under $100,000 are being offered $120,000 to $150,000 by the private sector. If they aren't qualified to get that job, they can come work for us for 6 or 7 months, and then they'll be picked up by the private sector. So even if we find the person, we still are going to have a tough time retaining them. The good news is there is a light at the end of the tunnel for those of us that have been around a little while. When the economy does finally turn around and tank, everybody flees back to the security of the government jobs. And then we're back into the position of being able to be more selective and stuff. We got to ride this out. We've got to be smart. We need to look. I'm not so much worried about recruitment as I am just retention. So, on that note, one of the things that we do have available to us with the ARPA funds, the federal government gave us the ARPA funds, said, we'll allow you, which is their way of saying we encourage it because they definitely prohibit things they don't like, to reward your staff that worked through COVID with a financial compensation from this money. And I hope when the time comes for us to do that, that we look at doing that and send the message to staff. If we choose not to, that's sending a message. That's a horrible message. But if we choose to do it, I think that also sends a message. The federal government's given us money. They're saying we will let you use it for these types of things. And I hope when we get the chance, we do it.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, Martin, your hand is still up. Is that?
Another comment, Mayor, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Along those lines, Councilmember Bond, the leadership team are continuing discussions along those lines about how we can utilize those types of funds to reward those individuals based on possibly time during the pandemic, who was here, what occurred, so that we can appreciate how we got to this point now where we are. So it's something that is on our plate. Just to let you know. Thank you.
Okay, is that it for this agenda item?
Yes, thank you very much for your time all.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, item H, events. Jody and Scott again? Or Martin, I'm not sure.
I'm going to come up here because Director Todd influenced me. This is much better over here. I think, Brian, I guess you can't see me, but Naomi, if you can bring up that quick slide deck. Jody and I just wanted to update everybody on city events and something else that we've done on this slide deck because we've gotten a lot of calls over the past few months about events that are city events and events that we're partners with and events that we're sponsors. So we just kind of wanted to present everything to you and get some clarification here on what we have coming up for this summer. And this is just for the summer. So first slide, second slide. So next up, Wednesday, May 18th is City Chat. That is an event that we host, and that'll be on Zoom from 6 to 7 p.m. And this will be once a month. Next up is the Mill Creek Police Department is doing the Citizens Academy. This is something that we just started doing a lot of promotion on, and that's starting on May 16th, and that runs just about 5 weeks, almost 5 weeks. And Detective Sergeant Fouch is running that program. Then our next event is Memorial Day. So this will be the large ceremony we're all used to. This will be the first time we've done this in quite a few years, right? And it'll be at Library Park on Monday, May 30th from 9 to 10. I encourage everybody to show up. We'll have a full agenda, but it will not be followed by the parade as we have done in the past this year. Next up in June, another city chat, Wednesday, June 15th. Tell everyone, show up. Next up after that is the first of 3 Party in the Parks. This one's going to occur at Highlands Park. That'll be from 5 to 7 p.m. on a Thursday. Councilman Cavallari, do you know what you might be able to do at Highlands Park on this date? Yeah.
Play pickleball?
Yes, with all your friends and family. Absolutely. But we're going to have a large group of community organizations there and lots of games and such. So it should be a lot of fun. Following Party in the Parks will be the Art Walk. This is put on by the Mill Creek Town Center Association. Takes place in Town Center on Saturday, June 11th. Heidi Butts from the Town Center Association puts that on and organizes that. We help out where we can with marketing and promotion. Following the Art Walk in July, another city chat. Again, Wednesday, July 20th from 6 to 7, followed by Pianos on Main. We're working with Public Works and a few others to get the 3 pianos we have renovated and ready to go out across Mill Creek Town Center. We're working with the business owners, hoping that we can get this all ready to go starting on Monday, July 11th. And that'll be through Monday, September 5th. So that takes place through a few months. And then following that will be Run of the Mill. We've confirmed with Mr. Knox at Columbia Funding, who hosts this. It will be on Saturday, July 23rd. I know everyone looks forward to this one. It'll be interesting to see what kind of attendance. I don't know if anybody remembers. That's like thousands. It's a lot. Following Run of the Mill is the Mill Creek Festival. This is hosted by the Mill Creek Chamber. Usually the city and the police and the foundation have a booth there, along with the fire department. And that takes place Saturday and Sunday, July 16th and 17th. After the festival is another Party in the Parks. This one will take place at Heron Park. Thursday, July 28th, another place where you can play pickleball amongst visit many other booths and play games. After Party in the Park in August, National Night Out. That's right. And this will be at Highlands Park, Tuesday, August 2nd, 5:30 to 8:30. We had great turnout last year. I don't doubt this will have a great turnout. Highlands Park is a much bigger park, so I think we'll be able to bring in a lot more other organizations and such and provide quite a great venue for the community. Again, Sergeant Fouch will be organizing that and we will be supporting him. I believe that's, the last Party in the Parks. This is something Jody and I are very excited about doing. This is going to take place at Mill Creek Sports Park. No promises here, but hoping to highlight the skate park, maybe a competition, maybe something like that, as well as lots of vendors and other activities. So this is something we're super excited about. I believe, yes, that's the last one. Any questions?
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, traditionally, I believe the art walks were plural. There were like 2 or 3 of them during the summer. Are we just doing the one?
It sounds like it. Jody, I don't know if you have any input. You've talked to Heidi a little bit more than me, but I believe it's just the one.
Thanks, Scott. There were talks of doing more than one, and at this point on their calendar, they've only confirmed the one. So we will check with Heidi, but at this point, that's what they have on their Mill Creek Town Center Association calendar. So
And just my last question here is, I've also had a citizen, well, actually a couple call about the music that we play in Town Center on Wednesdays. Is that ramping back up? Wednesday night music?
Oh,
in
at the
Town
Forum?
Center?
Yeah, I
Forum.
believe Heidi mentioned that they're going to be doing that again. They don't have a schedule out yet, though, do they?
right. And we did have that. We do have those tentatively scheduled. And as soon as they get that solidified, I guess you'd say, then we'll report on that.
Okay, and the idea is doing it on Wednesdays again, is that?
She did not give us a time. Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you?
that's not a city event.
No.
That's put on by the Businesses Town Center Association.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Councilmember Duque.
So this is all very exciting. Thank you for all your amazing hard work. I had one suggestion for the amazing party in the parks, which are so great. I remember one year there was the library, there, all those booths and vendors that you were talking about. I think it would be a lot of fun. I don't know who would do it, to have a table that said something about the Parks Board or Arts and Beautification. Maybe it was manned by them. Obviously, your Mill Creek Youth Advisory Board is already at these events and they're running it. Even if there's like some type of sign that they make that explains it, something that someone who attends, a resident, can look at this information and go, this is how I can get involved with the city. That would be like the takeaway that I want, that they could see. They see City of Mill Creek, and it talks about all the services the city does, but something about how you can get involved, because I know that we have there's a lot of vacancies on commissions, which makes sense. But even to talk about what the Planning Commission does or things like that. And it would be interesting to get those members of those boards to man that table, if it's possible, because then they can speak to their experience, and maybe even some of the people who've been, I was just thinking of a parks member specifically who's been on the board for a long time. They can talk about what they've seen in the growth of the city or the history of the city. I think it would be a fun opportunity. That way, of course, that would mean that you would need to find people who would be willing to volunteer for that. But I think having that takeaway would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. We, the Parks Board met last week and we actually had a conversation about that. And I let them know how integrated they need to be with these Party in the Parks. And it's, our one opportunity for the city to engage outside of some of the other non-city hosted events to get the word out. And yeah, definitely. So there's going to be a lot of involvement from them with these three events.
I hope then, but also like the Arts Board, that there's an opportunity, maybe they wouldn't think about going to the Party at the Parks or like I said, the Planning Commission or the Design and Review, a lot of these other ones that don't get FaceTime necessarily. Maybe they didn't think about it, but it's a way for people to talk to them.
I think we're on to something. Ladder golf hosted by the Arts and Beautification, right?
There you go.
Are there other questions for Scott? Okay, thank you, Scott. Looks like a busy spring and summer to come.
Thank you.
Okay, it brings us to the consent agenda. Item I, approval of checks number 64670 through 64714 and ACH wire transfers in the amount of $176,527.91. The audit committee was Councilmember Bond and the Mayor Pro Tem. Were there any exceptions?
No exceptions, Mayor.
No exceptions.
And item J, payroll and benefit ACH payments in the amount of $186,345.96. Any exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exception.
And item K, city council meeting minutes of May 3rd, 2022, April 26th, 2022, March 8th, 2022, and March 1st, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda is approved 7-0. On to reports. I just have a few items. think you all got the email from Russell at the City of Sultan about the Snohomish County Cities dinner. We're starting those back up after a couple of years of hiatus. I think this one is May 19th. I saw that there is an individual link for registering. I might suggest that if you're interested in going, the way we've done this in the past is to let the city clerk know, and then she would register everyone that's involved so that we don't all then have to submit for reimbursement for the dinner event. So I would suggest that if you could let Naomi know, say by the close of business on Thursday, if you plan to attend, and she can take care of getting us registered. It's at Terracotta Red and Hewitt in Everett. If you haven't been there, it's a great little restaurant. So it'll be good to see people, our fellow council members from other cities in person for the first time in a while. Well, I'll be attending the mayor's meeting tomorrow with the county executive, and I'll report on that in a couple of weeks. As Scott noted, we have a coffee chat scheduled for next week on May 18th. And then the final thing I wanted to report about is I had a conversation with former colleague Tom McBride, who's been a lobbyist in Olympia for about 15 or 20 years. He gave me some referrals for potential lobbyists to speak to. So I'm going to be working with the acting city manager and Mayor Pro Tem to begin putting together some proposals for what we might consider for getting some representation in Olympia for the coming session. So just wanted to let you know that start those discussions and getting those referrals in place. I think that was all I had for tonight. Mayor Pro Tem, any reports?
Mayor, I do, but did you want to talk about that letter that you?
I didn't see, did it get circulated?
It did get circulated and I had one on my desk too. So
Okay,
I didn't know if you needed to talk about that or not.
It did. I'm sorry. Everybody
Okay,
has
I
it.
didn't see if it went around. So I got that, a copy of that letter. It's in support of an apprenticeship program that is being advocated for. And so I have not had a chance to closely review the letter. I think Nate Nearing from Marysville Circuit, I'm sorry, Nate Nearing, who did it come from? Nate Nearing at the county council? Yeah, and so he's asking for the cities to sign on as to support. So I haven't had a chance to closely review it before I said yay or nay. I wanted to at least run it by you folks to see if we had any consternation or thumbs up, thumbs down, indifference.
I think it's a great program. I haven't read through the whole letter yet because we've been in the meeting, but I think it's an excellent program. So
I say we kick it a week. I haven't even had a chance to.
Fair enough. That's oftentimes the way these come about is, and I'm reluctant to just sign on without first running it by you all, unless it's something that's obvious something that I know you'd all support. So I might ask Nate if it's a hard, firm deadline for the end of the week or not, to see if we can find a way to get us on there. So thank you for reminding me of that, Stephanie.
you're welcome.
Did you have any
Okay.
reports?
And I do have a report. First off, I did have the health department meeting this evening. Lots going on. I think the main takeaway is that the numbers have been going up a little bit, but they have started to level off again. So I think there's optimism that those number spikes were from spring break and things like that, and they're not going to continue growing. The health department is recommending that everyone continue to wear face masks when you're in crowded areas, and they're encouraging people to not have huge gatherings for a little while. Obviously, that's recommendations, so, and not mandatory. Also, I know the mayor's having a mayor meeting, but I have started going to a meeting for mayor pro tems and council presidents in the South County. And we had one today, and the discussion that we kind of got into was on the policies with homelessness and the fact that countywide there aren't that many beds for people to take homeless to for them to stay. So we started kicking around. The county has implemented that 1% income tax. I think it's income tax, or is it the 1% tax, sales tax? Sorry. And so we started kicking around maybe thinking about having everyone come together to push for them to maybe use some of those funds towards increasing that bed count. So I just want to throw that out there and everyone just to think about over the next couple of weeks, because we may come up with a letter to ask for support to send to the county council in the coming weeks. I just wanted you to know we were having that discussion, and that may come up again, but I will come to you obviously before I sign on any letters. So that's all I've got.
Councilmember Bond, any report tonight?
No report.
Councilmember Steckler.
Just a quick report and also a shout out. Unfortunately, I'm not available for the City of Sultan dinner, but I wished I were. I'll be out of town, but that sounds like a wonderful event. I hope many of us can make it. I did want to put a shout out to, we had the City of Mill Creek and the Kiwanis Club of Mill Creek joint electronic recycling event yesterday. It was a bit of a challenge. It was Mother's Day, but even though it was Mother's Day, we did have a steady stream, and we were able to recycle about approximately about 6,000 pounds of electronics, which, given the fact that our Snohomish County transfer stations are all closed down because they're worried about combustible piles of garbage that they have right now, it was nice to keep that out of the landfills. And it was a nice service for our citizens. It was overall a successful drive, and I think it was our third annual electronic recycling event. So great success, and a shout out to two volunteers from the Citizens Patrol, Barb and George, who every year come out of their own and volunteer to direct the traffic for us. A big thank you to them every year for doing this. So a good event, and also a thank you to our marketing team who helped to put together the poster for us, and also the cones, and marked off the area and made sure that we got the huge container truck in there. We were able to do this safely and protect the identities and confidential data that was on all of the computers that were brought in for recycling. It was a successful and complete event. It was well done. So thank you to all involved. That's it.
Councilmember Cavallari, any report?
No report, Mayor, but I did have a quick comment and hope that at some point we could perhaps get an update on the status of the senior center. I don't even think I know who is in directing those operations up there anymore. Are they fully open back up? And perhaps reestablish that relationship and make sure we're keeping in tune with this population that kind of got lost in the shuffle during COVID. So that's my hope here, and perhaps at some point we can have an update. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Allison, any report tonight?
No report, but just like John is going to be out of town, I will be out of town too and won't be able to participate in that dinner. I've already let Naomi know, so hopefully some of you will be able to attend that.
Councilmember Duque, any report?
Yes, I had the amazing pleasure to attend the Parks and Recreation Board meeting last Wednesday. What a fantastic group of people we have on the Parks and Rec Board and staff that attend. I think they're having, they have great ideas that they've been really working on, and they're now at the stage where they're working with staff to move forward with it and think about next steps. And they'll be coming to us in the next couple months, depending on what the particular project is. But one of the items I wanted to just flag for everyone, because it was something that when I was on the board, we had discussed, and it was the park signs at the actual parks. A consistent signage when it comes to the name of the park with the address location. This was something I had heard many times. I happen to be a resident who uses Exploration Park quite frequently. And this is something when there's an emergency and you need to call for help, you don't know how to explain your directions because you're not at a house, you're at the park, and you could say the name of the park. But so those are things that when we did our last park tour, when we did the park tour last year, it was something we had flagged, and they're moving forward with it. And I believe the last I spoke to Scott, they're working with staff in figuring out what that looks like, and with Public Works. And I just wanted to flag that for you guys, that those are some of the important things that these types of boards and commissions do, that they think it's an opportunity for us to have this focus group to bring up these ideas and then to work with staff to be able to make it happen, because I think that's really important for emergencies. And they're a great group, and I thank Councilmember Cavallari for letting me sit in on that one.
Thank you,
for
Councilmember
covering in
Duque.
my absence.
A couple items that we forgot about. Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem forgot to report on the ribbon cutting she attended on Friday night for the new business. I forget what it was.
You're right, Mayor. Thank you. I've been doing so many things. I did need to report that we had a fabulous ribbon cutting for a new business. It's called Urban Way. And it is located right over there next to the Francis Grace hair salon. You can tell I have a kid. That's what I think of when I go over there. And it went really well. It was really exciting to welcome them in. A lot of members of the chamber were there, and technically Cora cut the ribbon because I was struggling to cut the ribbon, and she kept trying, and she cut the ribbon. So that was kind of fun and exciting. And we want to welcome them to the community, and it's nice to see new businesses opening.
Yeah, and we
Thank
have
you for
another
reminding me, Mayor.
Yeah, and what made me think of it is I just learned today we have a Zeke's coming to the city, and I've been asked to do the ribbon cutting for that in June. So that's 3 new businesses in the last six weeks. It's exciting. Acting City Manager, your reports, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 reports. The first one is on our, on our staffing. First thing I'd like to do is introduce our new HR manager, Debbie Mills. Unfortunately, her laptop's not working, so City Council we'll be able to see her. Oh, there we go. Director Todd.
Welcome.
So welcome, Debbie, to the City of Mill Creek.
Welcome.
I also wanted to say thank you to our Finance Director, Brock, for pulling the weight over a year's time, even more than that. And also the city staff, who's actually held an HR hat as well during that time. So we're all elated to have Debbie on board. Debbie brings over 30 years of experience in HR. She's held positions as an analyst, manager, and director in the HR capacity over a number of municipalities in our region. She has a depth of expertise in labor relations, employee compensation, evaluations, updating performance manuals, just to name a few things, benefit programs. So Debbie will be able to provide us not only hands-on work, but also advisement from an HR standpoint. So we're just happy to have her.
Welcome.
The City of Mill Creek, as you know, we've hired a number of positions in the past few months, a total of 8. We still have a lot of work to do. Now that we have Debbie on board, we'll be able to hopefully move a little quicker on this. We've hired a police consultant as well to move on our police hiring. So he's been out there in the field right now, just already out there working for us, trying to get some new recruits. Lateral candidates, preferably coming from other agencies, or they're looking for positions. The current openings at the City of Mill Creek are 1, a project engineer that Director Todd mentioned. The second is our Director of Planning and Development, the position that Tom Rogers recently held. And the third is our staff account, which we'll be hiring hopefully within the this month, excuse me. And the other positions that are open are the ones in police that we're working on, as I mentioned. With that, I'll take any questions. Councilmember Duque.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Are you still looking for the seasonal maintenance workers? Yes, 2. You're still looking for
Apologize.
those. Okay.
That is the other one we're looking for as well. We're looking hopefully in May, possibly 2. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're looking right now. Thank you. No other questions? The second update is a COVID update. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you for leading into that. A little more on the COVID update in the past. Over the past year, the City of Mill Creek has really gone a long way. The reason why we're here today, and we're generating the revenues we can over the passport services, The reason why we were able to work to get things done is because we worked in person. We were able to pivot on tasks. We address the hot items, hit those deliverables as best as we could over that time. And that's because of those COVID protocols that were set in place during that time. It's the mask that we wore, the barriers that you see in front of us. I think that truly are the reasons why we are here today, I believe, and able to move forward from here. We're on the forefront of keeping our office open. There were agencies that are just starting now to bring their offices open, but we were moving forward that entire time. So with that, I wanted to announce that we're just keeping status quo with the mask mandate. Given the spike in COVID cases, I just looked today and they actually went down a bit, which was fortunate. And although we were excited about possibly having the chance to remove these, open the doors, we decided not to do that and then monitor at a weekly basis. Things might change in a week or 2 or 3. So we'll just keep looking at the cases and seeing how things pan out and within the best interest of our community safety and also our staffing. So thank you. With that, I'll take any questions.
Okay. Is that it for your reports?
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close out the meeting as always with audience communication. Would anyone like to address the council? Mr. Nelson, name, address, and 3 minutes, please.
Yeah, Will Nelson, 14925 29th Drive, Southeast Mill Creek. I got an email a couple of weeks ago from the Washington State Department of Commerce. And how I got on their email list, I don't know, probably because I'm on somebody else's email list, but they were highlighting what I want to share is that they were highlighting all of the legislation regarding dwellings, occupancy, homes, home ownership, etc. And after reading through this detailed email and looking at all the legislation that they worked on in Olympia last session, the opinion I formed was that the legislature seems to be working on turning the Growth Management Act into a social engineering program. My opinion, my comment only. But the legislation they're working on is extensive in that regard. And from what I've read and heard and seen in this email, a number of people are not very happy that the House Bill 1660 and the on ADUs, accessory dwelling units, and the other one, 1785 on multiplexes, didn't get through the legislature, and the number of people don't appear to be very happy on that. They can't seem to understand that why various legislators can't see what's needed and so on. So just thought I'd share that as to what's going on in the legislature, at least from what I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Anyone else like to address the council? Seeing none, we will be adjourned at 7:53. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everyone.